Hey everybody, before we get started, just want to remind you this episode is brought to you by our patrons like Ahego Comics, Qua, and Mr. Flores. If you like what we do and want to see us do more, consider supporting us on Patreon. You can get access to episodes early and lots of other goodies, and it would really help us out. Thanks for your support, everybody. Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. It is time once again for Let's Talk FGO Wanted. I would have inserted some Imperial March or maybe Duel of Fates in there, but you know that's a bad idea, so that's why I don't try to record or stream anything I'm doing with Kingdom Hearts right now. Anyway, this is Wanted, and this would normally be the part of the show where I tell you that this is the show where we let you know if you want to roll 5 stars, and I talk about how there are 4 rough segments to this show where I cover a diverse amount of topics, and then there's some wrap-up stuff at the end. But, you know what happens when you do original characters. We've encountered this before with, you know, Ilya and specifically, stuff like that. Or even, you know, weirdo variations on characters who are not 100% original, but whatever, you know. But with original characters, this is really going to be like 2 real sections and then a 3rd squishy or vague section, which kind of blends the usual areas of sections that I normally do. Anyway, today we're talking about Mysterious Heroine X Alter, the 5-star berserker who is coming out with our Valentine's event that is coming up and forced me to suddenly record Wanted because I realized I hadn't done it before. And we'll just jump into it because the first section is usually where I talk about real-world history, but obviously this is technically a Fate original character and even more technically an FGO original character. While the normal version of MHX was traced back to a specific April Fool's joke that Type Moon did, it's got a really long name involving some Satsuki, which I can't remember off the top of my head, but that was something they did for several years, and they had it several years before FGO, I should say, and they had a design for it and everything, and they had like a little backstory that they turned into Saber Wars and that playable servant. As far as I know, there's none of that with Alter, Etchen, as regular MHX says, so I think she just shows up, because it mentions, yeah, okay, so it says her origin is the Valentine's event. So yeah, she's original to this event and this time in FGO, and while she is a proper Saber clone, a full-blown Saber face, voiced by Ayako Kawasumi and everything, her and MHX are still mostly original characters. There's some kind of extensive gag backstory to the Servant universe, and the Lancers are all exterminated, and all of the archers except Cosmo Emperor Gil, or Cosmo Emperor Gold exist, or some weird stuff like that. MHX Alter doesn't bother with any of that. She's an anti-saber weapon. She's here to destroy MHX for reasons, and she has 2 swords for reasons, and glasses. And if you get to her 3rd ascension, she turns into a Sith Lord with lightning and everything. And she's super adorable. Other than that, there's not really much to talk about. We'll obviously get some detail on her in the event, because that's her origin. Or at least, we'll get her profile. Does she? I don't think she has like a trial quest or anything. And guess what? The story's the same as the last year, so there's really not much to talk about. I was reading her profile translation really quick, and there's a perfect line here which completely encapsulates both this segment and my response to MHXA in terms of character writing, which is, "You don't know what's going on anymore, you say? Question mark. Yes, I do not. I really don't. It's, you know, kind of weird and stuff going on there. There's lots of, like, weird jokes in her profile. Whatever. She's a spoof character of a spoof character, or an alternate of a spoof character, so don't think about it too hard. That's literally also what her profile says. It says, don't think, feel. Just go with the flow, okay, guys? I know a lot of you out there like to, you know, put on your first-year English major hats and do all this, you know, cutting literary criticism of a mobile waifu phone game. I was redundant. I meant to say like a mobile waifu gacha game. Designed to steal your money. And it's very good at it. But sometimes jokes are just jokes. Sometimes a cigar is just a cigar. So with that out of the way, let's actually talk about her mechanics and stuff, because that's actually much more interesting. MHXA has a very weird, niche-y thing going on. So, core stats, if you look at her attack and you think that's a little low for a 5-star Berserker, you're not wrong. She is basically the bottom of the tier for attack of 5-star Berserkers, in a class which is normally overloaded with huge attack monsters. The only one lower than her is Nightingale, and Nightingale actually has a lower attack than some high-yield 4-star Berserkers, like Herc, Beowulf, Penth, stuff like that. So, MHXA does edge out all of those, so she's a very solid choice over 4 stars in that regard. To make up for it, she does have the second meatiest HP, she's slim thick, out of all Berserkers, with, of course, the aforementioned Nightingale being the most, but still, a decent chunk. Now, obviously, you might think to yourself, well, doesn't that kind of even out because of the way Berserkers take and give damage? And yeah, it probably will, but she does have that little bit extra HP to work with, and maybe the attack won't mind so much because she's going to be hurting mostly everything. Berserker, so her star generation and absorption is terrible. Her NP gain is high per card, but you look at her and you realize, oh right, Berserkers. So she's got a 2 hits arts card, so that'll obviously perform pretty well at 2 hits in that number. And then she's got 3-hit quick cards, which will also probably perform pretty good with that number, but still, with those 2 buster cards, NP gain is not her specialty. But you know what? There are solutions for that in this world. They're called Waver and Merlin. And lots of other people. So you can kind of see she got a fairly balanced out deck. Very interesting for Berserker that while she does have 2 buster cards, she does not go full gorilla. She has in fact 2 quick cards. Very interesting. We'll talk about that why in a second. But let us go ahead and jump right out since there's no need to worry about any of her other core stats and stuff. They're all not super impressive. Let's talk about her NP, which is actually super interesting. So, first off, this is a single target quick NP on a Berserker, which means there's a very solid damage multiplier. It's got 9 hits, so it will actually generate some stars, even with her, weak star gen, normally. Got a lot of hits. You can make a quick chain with this, so you can just free stars. Scales really well. Oh, and did I mention it's got extra damage to Saber class servants? Yes, that's right. She is an anti-Saber weapon in its realist form. And this is overcharged based. She does 150% damage starting to Sabers, which means she's good at everything, but she's also extra good at Sabers. So first off, you've got a solid niche here, right? She can do a little bit of star gen, right? Like with the number of hits. I mean, even though Lancelot's pretty low, if you pop his skills and you use his NP, he's got enough big hits that he can actually do some gain there. And yes, this does mean that in the future, Scotty memes will apply to MHX Alter, if you're investing for the future like we talked about with Dantes. But still, for now, it's a decent type niche. And not only does she do okay damage against mostly everybody, but then she does extra okay damage against Sabers, which gives her an effective niche if you want to deal damage to possibly multiple classes, like you're fighting a situation where there's going to be some Lancers and then maybe a big Saber boss at the end, and you're like, oh, my fragile archers, they'll never live that long. Let me get my even more fragile Berserker to beat everybody up, and then beat up that Saber extra hard. It could happen. Speaking of making stuff happen, so here's a fun one. MHXA is a Berserker, but her first skill, her starting skill, is a healing skill. It's the Infinite Black Bean Paste EX, which targets herself. It increases her own HP received from healing, which is an awkward way to write. I believe that she increases the effect of heals on her for 3 turns, starting at 20% and going up to 50%. And then also it recovers her own HP, starting at a base of 1k, going all the way up to 2k. I assume that it's not mentioned here in this notes, but I assume that the self-healing boost applies first, so that she would increase the amount so that at level 10, every 5 turns, you can apply a self-healing boost by 50%, and then you'll recover 3k HP, considering she has a pretty healthy HP amount, and you will probably be sticking a Berserker as your core damage dealer with some sort of healers or other damage mitigation. It's not terrible. Pretty good at keeping her alive. So, her second skill. This is going to take a little bit of talking. So, by default, right now, it's Intuition, which is the translation of Instinct. This skill type is infamous in FGO for being awful. Just because, first of all, with just low-level basic bronze tier servants like Hans, with a single 5-star CE like 2030, even arguably Revelation on rulers like Jean and Amakusa, you can generate stars much more consistently than with Instinct, and her Instinct or Intuition is only C, so it's in the middle of the road. It gives you 4 stars at level 1 and up to 14 stars at level 10, and yes, it's got a short cooldown, but it's not enough stars consistently to do what you want because of the inherent randomness of stars. So, it's not a good skill now. But MHXA is one of the first, she might be the first actually, one of the characters with this skill to actually get it upgraded. And so she will get a rank up quest, which will turn this into Instantaneous Shadowless Blade, which is a super chuny name. But what that does is, still on its 5-turn cooldown, it gives you a 3-turn quick booster of 20% to 30% and gives more stars. The level 1 becomes 10 and the level 10 becomes 20, which is a lot better because that gives her the standard issue damage steroid. It'll stack with her 3rd skill, which we'll talk about in a second, more in ways than one, and it gives more stars in the duration, so you don't feel bad about using it, which is pretty great. It's very efficient, I think, for this character design, and really helps you see what she's about. She is a berserker who can generate and utilize stars in a way a little bit similar to Lancelot, but Lancelot's AoE, and then usually you turn around and you do big crits with your buster cards the turn after or something. So, that 3rd skill, Sovereign's Invisible Hand, the invisible hand of the market. So first off, this is a pretty standard charisma variant. Well, not a pretty standard, but it's a charisma variant. You get 10% to 20% team attack for 3 turns on a 5-turn cooldown. Pretty solid, that she's got a little bit of attack buff for herself or any friends. And once you upgrade her 2nd skill, which if you have her, you totally will be doing, then that, that additive adds up pretty together. You're talking about a 20 to 30% quick up and then a 10 to 20% attack up. Pretty solid for a damage dealer. And spread it over 3 turns. But the much more interesting nature of this skill is that it reduces one ally's star weight or star gather rate by 100% for 1 turn. So when you pop this, you pick another character and their star weight plummets. I'm assuming that reduced by 100% means that if their star weight isn't improved by some outside source, it will go down because it's being multiplied or subtracted by, 100%. It goes down to 0, so they will definitely not get any of those stars. This can be handy if you're using, like, say, a Rider Star Generator or something, or whatever, and you're not necessarily generating enough stars, like in a Jack-type situation, so you will definitely get stars on MHXA, or any friends you want them to, but you can totally manipulate the stars and just be like, no, Mr. Highweight, you go down, and then I'll put this in. If you are using her to fight sabers, that can actually be good to kind of, like, cancel out maybe an archer you have, and put your other couple servants on an even playing field. This isn't quite as good as, say, the phenomenal Starvac skills like you got on, like, Lancelot, because that makes sure that it's Lancelot getting those stars. MHXA can't do that, but she can make sure that that other guy doesn't get those stars, so you get a lot of good star control in there, which is very useful for her setup. And then her passives are pretty basic. She's got her Ult Reactor A, which is a very special way to say that she's got an extra cool magic resistance for 20% debuff resist. Solid for damage dealers. And you're going to want to make sure she doesn't get buff blocked or anything like that. And she's got a Madness Enhancement C, so that when she uses her couple of buster cards, she gets a little bit extra mileage out of them. So looking at it all in all, what you've got here is, like I said, you've got a Berserker who can, if used correctly, generate stars, and actually turn those stars around into crits when you want them to. Combine her with quick support, or with buster support even. Honestly, everybody says Merlin's buster crit. She's got 2 buster cards. She's got a passive buster enhancement. You can totally, she's got a healing booster. You can totally run her with Merlin and make those, and basically use Merlin's NP and her own NP to generate oodles of stars, which she can then gather up and use on her buster card turns. And there's lots of other certain combos you can do with this, support-wise. Because she has a healing booster, she pairs well with healers if you want to try that. And just in general, star generators, crit boosters, that kind of stuff. Anybody who can manipulate her star weight for CEs, you're going to look at any of the standard CEs which up your star gather rate just because Berserkers are so awful at that, so any little bit counts. And also quick and crit support, basically. You want to gen more stars, you want to hit harder with your quicks, you want to hit harder with your NP, but not necessarily go whole hog on something like a, well, definitely not Black Grail, just because that HP is going to be precious as a Berserker, even if you have a lot of it. No Heaven's Feel, no Howling Princess or anything, because it's a single target anyway. Like, maybe a K-Scope in your back row so you can, drop an NP bomb. But in general, yeah, you're going to want to focus to playing to her strengths as you want her to be able to get stars, use stars. So let's move into our next regular segment, which is Rarity. Guess what? This segment's also going to be short because, ooh, boy, is she not common. You're looking at basically this year, this Valentine's event banner coming up, on which there's a couple confusing things. We talked about that in the news video that's already out, and also we'll talk about that in the future in Let's Talk FGO if you're confused, so stay tuned. But she's available here, and then her banner will be rerun next year, but that will also completely coincide with a brand new Servant banner for Semiramis and brand new Valentine's CEs, okay? So, if you want her, and you want to use her, and you really like her, and you want your complete Saber collection, well, your best opportunity is right now. Now, there will be some guaranteed, GSSR gotchas where you might pull her. But still, you're talking about regular rate-ups. There's only a couple so far. It's entirely possible she'll emerge later. I know a lot of people who are following and playing Japan are hoping for like a proper Saber Wars sequel. That'd be a perfect time for her and MHX to come back because they're both very rare servants and very interesting. But so that is beyond the 2 years forecasting window we're at, okay? And that's basically one. Like I said, there's not really a lot fluff-wise to talk about this character. I mean, her antics are pretty adorable. You know, she's very cute because she's got that, like, serious, I'm the last of my kind, I'm going to destroy MHX, blah, blah, blah. But also, MHX thinks that she's adorable and calls her Etchen. And, stuff like that. So, if you like quick or you want to fuel your Saber face obsession, she is for you. Anyway, let's go ahead and wrap this up, because I have more video production to do today. And I will say that, don't forget to give this video a like if you liked it. If you have any comments, go ahead and leave those in the comment section down below. And, of course, if you're new here and have not already, please subscribe. And even if you're already subscribed, don't forget the bell for notifications, because it always lets you know when we post a video. Though with Wanted, at least, you can usually guess when I'm going to post those. And, hey, look forward to, in about exactly 2 weeks, me releasing the Wanted Archer of Shinjuku. I'll have to figure out how I'm going to handle spoilers in that video, because his name will be censored by the game, so we'll work that out. And, of course, like it says at the front of the episode, you can consider supporting us on Patreon. That's just really helpful to our channel in general, helps us grow, helps us pay for daily life needs, and also to maintain and improve our computers, so we can do more videos, and we can do them better, and turn them around faster. And also gives you access to goodies like access to audio-only downloads, early access to shows, access to polls, stuff like that. So it's super fun. Also, we've said this before, but we're approaching a kind of a threshold with our patrons where very soon we're probably going to start doing patron Q&As every month. So look out for that. Anyway, that's the video. I will see you guys on the flip side. Everybody, stay X or whatever. X-Force. Something to do with the X crossbeam behind her. Anyway, and I will see you in the regular Let's Talk FGO later this week. Bye-bye, everybody.